Matt Berner, your Mike Beer, taking a look at the late pick 4 sequence Saturday afternoon down at Monmouth Park. Races 8 through 11. It's United Nations Day down at Monmouth, and this sequence culminates with the Grade 1 United Nations. Again, races 8 through 11. Scheduled post time for the 8th race. The kickoff leg of the pick 4 is 4:23 Eastern. Mike, we start off with maidens going 8.5 on the turf. I think Robusto is going to take some beating.
Yeah, I'll try and narrow it down in the first leg and put most of my play through Robusto. I just think he's going to be really tough to beat in here. I don't think he had any real excuse not to win last time. He was the favorite. He got run down by his stablemate Hieroglyphics. He didn't have any real excuse in there, but I still thought he ran well. And I liked his debut a lot. I thought he really showed something first time out. I just think he's way the horse to beat in here.
I agree with that. I don't want to go too deep in this race, just mainly because I don't think there are really many horses that have giant chances in here. I'm way against Brian Bake's cookies. I suppose if you told me that there was one horse that you absolutely had to pitch,
yes,
it would be him. He's 3-1 in the morning line, and I mean, I get that Clement's only had him twice, but is he really going to move forward that much in his 10th lifetime start?
No, we agree 100% with this horse. He's the second choice on the morning line. He'll be none of my tickets. I just don't think he's that good. I don't like any of his races. I think Robusto's way better than he is. If I back up in the race, and I'll take small backups, one of them will be with the 4.
Yep.
Convivial, the Goldberg first-time starter, huge pedigree on this horse. The Dam was a really good horse. I think her first fall was forced to pass.
Yes.
Grade 1 winner on the turf. So I guess I'll back up with that horse just in case he can run. And I'm almost obligated to put a 50-cent ticket in with the entry, if only because the 1A Millie's Party Boy, and I don't know where he's been since October 14th of last year, but if you haven't seen it, I know it was a New York bred race. Go back and watch the replay of his debut. This horse made a gigantic run from last around the turn in that race. It looked like he was going to win and just flattened out at the end. He ran a lot better than the 59 buyer, will have you believe.
My only backup is going to be the 4 that you discussed, Convivial, just simply because of all the things you said, the pedigree. This horse is really bred for it. I know Goldberg's not really a first out-of-the-box kind of guy. And the other problem, too, is English Channel, only about 7% with first-time starters as well. So I'm going to use him as a backup, but all of my eggs, most of my eggs anyway, are going to be in Fletcher's basket here in the debut, or the first leg of this pick 4 sequence, race number 8. Let's move on to race number 9. Non-winners of one other than optional 20s, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. I think everyone is going to look to the inside 2 runners, particularly the 1 Great Lou, the 2 Space Shuttle. Space Shuttle feels like could be anything. We don't know what he's going to be just yet. Great Lou, you're really banking on that Navarro has gotten him good.
I mean, it just looks like if Great Lou runs the race that he ran first time off the claim for Navarro, then I guess he'll just win. He was fast in that race, and I mean, he goes from a horse who occasionally would get into the 80s to running a 91. It was at 5. The one little thing that probably was at 5.5, but we'll see. I don't see how you play the pick 4 and don't use him, although I don't trust him. Space Shuttle looks to me like he could be okay. I feel like those kinds of races that he won can be a little tough to figure out, just only because he wired the field, and the horses that ran second and third were both first-time starters, so you have no idea what he was beating. The first-time starters, however, were Todd Pletcher and Chad Brown, and they both got bet, and this horse was an easy winner, so I'll use Space Shuttle as well. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of the 3 Lazarus Project. I just feel like if the 1 and 2, if the 2 can keep up with the 1 and make him race a little bit, this horse will be running at the end. I think this is a pretty good claim from these guys.
Yeah, I'm only going to use the 1 and the 2 as main plays in here. It's interesting to note that Space Shuttle, he was entered to run last Saturday in the Jersey Shore, and they chose to bypass that spot. He lands here. He's going to take some money in here, though, and I feel like the inside 2, that's the danger of this pick 4 sequence.
Yeah.
If you think it is going to chalk out, you're going to need to play it, and you're going to need to press it in a big way, because especially if later on down the road we get to the United Nations, we'll dive into that. But I think the 1 and 2 are going to take money. If I use any backup, it's going to be with the 6 Town Classic for Brian Lynch. I don't particularly love the horse, but I do think that there's a scenario where the inside 2 hook up. Maybe your horse, the 3, sits just off. But if anyone's going to try to make any sort of ground up from the back, I think it's the 6.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he could fall into the right trip in this race, and then it's just a question of whether he's good enough to pull it off. I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of his, but I suppose that he's one of the horses you'd have to consider in here.
The 10th race, a mile and 16th on the turf, optional 30, non-winners of 2 other than. There's one horse in particular that I'm quite interested in, and I want to know your thoughts. Are you using the 9, lay that pistol down, because he would be the one that I have most of my eggs in?
Yeah, definitely using that horse. I don't know. I just felt like this was maybe one of the races where I'll take a little bit of coverage. Mostly with sort of horse towards the outside. Hockey School, I mean, I'm going to use him. I don't love him.
Sure.
I'm going to use him. He's got speed. He'll be up close. Your horse, definitely I'm going to use that horse. I'm going to use Tusk, the 6. He's just sort of logical in this race. I don't know how good he is, but he's logical. And I will say this. One horse that I want to use, because I want to try and get I don't have any real prices on my ticket yet, unless that entry in the first leg happens to get in there somehow. But I want to use the 3, Cheyenne Bull.
Okay.
I have a little thing from, I feel like he was improving for Jason Service at the end of last year. He had a crazy trip in that December race at Gulfstream. And actually, I don't even know how he finished 3rd in that race. That was a crazy trip. He was declared a non-starter after the fact. His races since then haven't been great, but they're switching to turf now. And he's a 1/2 to 4 turf winners. His dam made 1 start in her life on the turf. She won by 6.5 with a 103 Beyer speed figure. There's enough pedigree, and he has enough ability in this kind of a race where I want to use him at a price.
You've probably talked me into including this horse as well, and it's worth noting too. They've tried to get him on the turf twice. One of those times was that race that there was a disaster out of the gate, and he cleaned out half the field. He's unexposed in a race where you kind of know what you're going to get from the other horses. So maybe there is some room for improvement there. You've talked me into using Cheyenne Bull. I'm also going to use, not because I love this horse, I'm going to use the 4 Boss Man. I just think he's logical. I think he fits in here. I think he's getting some class relief. I don't know that he's this good, but you know what? I mean, you don't have to be that good at face value, and I think that's why the 3 is interesting. Again, the case you made for Cheyenne Bull, certainly something to consider, but the one that I'll have most of my eggs in as far as a pick 4 play, if I'm using Ticketmaker, is going to be the 9. Lay that pistol down for Navarro. Second off the bench, that most recent start, the runner-up came back to win next out with a 91. The 3rd place runner, Riviere de Lou, came back, and he didn't win, but he ran comparable and competitive with an 82 Beyer. So I'll use the 9 and the 4, and now I'll use a little bit of the 3 as well. The final leg of this pick 4 sequence, we've already got the nuts and bolts up. It is the Formulator race of the day for Saturday. It's the Grade 1 United Nations. Again, you can find all that over on video.drf.com. Who are you using and in what sort of fashion?
Well, I'm going to use 3 horses in here, and I'm just going to, if I can make it this far in the pick 4, I'm just going to use them all in equal share. We both like the 7, Can't Help Believing. I'm using him in the pick 4. I think he's a contender at a price in this race. The 2 favorites to me down on the inside, the 1 and the 2. I mean, I just have to use them. I think it's pretty likely one of those 2 probably wins this race, even though I'm going to bet against them, and I have to use them in the pick 4.
Yeah, I have to be honest. You know, it's one of those things. Here I am saying I don't want to bet on the 1 or the 2, but that was from an individual race standpoint. I'm using all 3 of these horses in equal weight, the 1, the 2, and the 7. I will use 1 backup, though, because I'm very curious to find out if Lucky Lindy is quite this good. Because visually, you're right, he had everything go his way, but he looked good, and he's going to be a giant price in this race. And you know what? If I am a little bit chalky in those first 3 races, maybe somehow you get a price in here. In the nightcap here, race number 11 at Monmouth Park, the Grade 1 United Nations. Again, it's a fun sequence, 8 through 11 Saturday afternoon. Down on the Jersey Shore, everything culminates with the United Nations. Scheduled post time for the first race, race number 8 of this late pick 4 sequence, is 4:23 Eastern. Good luck.